¿Cuáles son los retos más habituales a los que se enfrentan las empresas para implementar la inteligencia artificial? Eso es lo que queremos resolver ahora mismo en esta ronda de preguntas que hemos preparado específicamente para Boris Cordes. Sabemos que hay más de 600 personas inscritas en esta sesión y algunos de vosotros habéis mandado preguntas muy interesantes, así que vamos a volver a conectar con Boris Cordes, Senior Director Partner and Alliance de DataRobot. Hello, Mr. Boris, welcome back again. We have some question from our audience, interesting question, and let's go. The first is, how much data is needed to build models with DataRobot?
A question that we get on a regular basis, and I think it also is important to understand. And for example, Arnaud in his presentation mentioned things like data lake, big data. Yeah. So AI, and it's something that sometimes customers do not really differentiate well. Is that AI and automated machine learning, and for example, what we just have seen, is not per se about big data. So you do not have to have big data. You do not have to have a lot of data. Sometimes, and it always depends on the use case, but sometimes already relatively small data sets can be good, very good, to come up with first very accurate models. So for example, the use case that we just have seen, 10,000 rows, sometimes 100,000 rows, it's possible to build very good models based on these kind of data sets. Also, for example, if you think about the healthcare example that I talked about, and the staffing in a hospital, these are not terabytes of data. When we talk about DataRobot, and when we talk about DataRobot with partners, with customers, it is always very, very use case centric. So we do not talk about, hey, where's your data warehouse? Where's your data lake? And what we can do with it? It's always the question, okay, what's your core question? What's your use case? And where's the data? And as said, it doesn't have to be a huge data set. And also because we, as mentioned in the presentation, we differentiate between the first step, it's about training. We do not need terabytes of data to train good models. And then the second step is bringing the model in production. And of course, then over time, we might get a lot of data for a model. So if you think about doing prediction, predictive maintenance and get sensor data, perhaps you get a lot of sensor data in real time. And over time, it becomes gigabytes and terabytes of data, but you do not need the data to upload it to DataRobot to build a model. Yeah, so not a lot of data is needed. And I want to also highlight one additional aspect. Due to the high degree of automation that we provide, the entire, let's say, the entire development process and the project will be different, because I think Arno also mentioned this typical answer from customers: hey, 80% is data preparation. We do not have the best data, or data is not complete, or data is not high quality. But due to this high level of automation, what you can do is you can just try it out. It does not take weeks or months. So if you are not sure if you have a good data set, hey, just upload it to DataRobot and try it out, and let DataRobot help you to identify if there are missing values, if the quality is not good. These are all things that DataRobot can help with, and you come up with a first model and with a first accuracy very soon, and then you can decide, hey, that was really fast. It is not a perfect model already, but I implemented in, I don't know, an hour or half a day. So you can try it out, and then based on the result, you can start to work on the data in parallel. But you already have a model that you can use in production. Yeah. And it's perhaps better than the coin toss, the 50%, yeah, the pure guessing. Yeah. So one customer one time he mentioned it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. So you throw spaghetti on the wall, you throw your data onto the wall, and let's see what sticks, and just find out if it is perhaps already good enough to build first models. So short answer to the question, it's not about big data. It's very use case centric, and you can try it out, and even with smaller data sets, you can come up with first really good predictions.
So how much data is needed? Not a lot of data. That is the answer. So next question, is it possible to work with DataRobot with on Python models?
Also very good. And this question, especially in the last 6 to 12 months, came up a lot more. And the reason for this is that customers, they're already doing things, right? Not just based on DataRobot, but they have data scientists, they have data scientist teams. So they start develop first models. Perhaps they brought first models in production, and now it's exactly what they realize. They realize, hey, it's good that I have first models in production, but I also have to manage and monitor them. And how can I do it? And then the question comes up, and they ask, okay, can I use the models that I already have developed and start with DataRobot just for monitoring and management purposes? And the short answer is yes, you can. What I have shown in the demo has been the typical the two-step approach. So we built the model based on DataRobot, and then we deployed the model based on DataRobot, and we are able to manage and monitor it. But what you could also do is you can use your existing models or build models differently, and then just manage and monitor them using the DataRobot MLOps part. So we have an ML dev part. Also, from a commercial perspective, we differentiate between the ML dev part of DataRobot and MLOps. So you could just use the MLOps part of DataRobot, start with your own models, manage and monitor them properly, and then in a second step, for example, for new use cases, you could then over time start to work with the ML dev side, and also similar to what I showed you in the demo, you start to train your own models, build your own models. Yeah, you can do both, and therefore, yes, you can use DataRobot, you can work with DataRobot and your own Python models or any other models that you have.
Okay, next question. Would it be possible to test DataRobot in an POC?
Yes, we like to call them POVs because it's more about proving that we really can create value. I mentioned that creating value, that's what we are passionate about, sometimes a little bit paranoid. So it's not just prove that the concept of automated machine learning works. If we do these POVs, these proof of values, what we typically do within let's say a time frame of 1 or 2 weeks, we definitely show that it is able to create value based on the customer data, based on 1 or 2 specific use cases that we pick. It's important to pick the right use cases. Yeah, so there are a couple of things that we like to qualify very properly at the beginning before we start a POC, to make sure that we all have the same understanding, not only about the use case, but also how exactly for example, the predictions will be consumed. So do we have to provide the predictions as part of a BI platform or dashboard, or is another application consuming the predictions? How does the technical environment look like? What are the people that will help us during the POV? to build the models, also to validate them. So there are a couple of things that we want to make sure in advance before we start. But then we normally pick 1 or 2 use cases. Obviously, not the most complex one. So ideally, use cases that would already create good value, but that are also able to create and realize first predictions in a relatively short time frame, as said, 1 or 2 weeks. So doing these POVs is I would say a typical step of a process of a sales cycle with customers. So yes, we are doing this, but also very important, our partners are doing them, and we support our partners. So sometimes it depends on the customer, on the use cases. We have some experts that we can bring in. We do not have to bring them in, but yes, definitely possible.
Okay, it's possible. Let's have a look another question that we have here. Can I discuss my use case ideas with you? I mean, with you, it's DataRobot or Anpue.
Yes, definitely. We like to discuss these use cases a lot. That's our core business. We have the platform that I just showed. That's one part of, let's say, one part of DataRobot. We provide this platform. The other part of DataRobot is that we also want to be seen as a trusted advisor, trusted partner. Not trusted partner in a sense that we do the projects. Therefore, we have the partners, but partner in terms of we have a lot of expertise within DataRobot. Meanwhile, we're around about 1,200 people at DataRobot. I think 400 of them, 400 to 500 of them are real data scientists, and we have more than 1,000 customers. We have done, I don't know how many, a large number of projects and use cases that we already implemented and that we already brought into production. Therefore, there's a lot of expertise in the DataRobot organization that we provide to our partners so that they can do an excellent job with you as a customer. But if it is needed, we're also happy to jump in and discuss use case ideas, bring in references and examples from the same industry, from other industries. And there are different kinds of workshop formats, and it always depends on let's say, the maturity level or the phase that you as a customer are in. So for example, if you just started thinking about AI, then perhaps we like to call them use case ideation workshop would make sense. So it's just about, hey, let's work on some ideas that could work on some interesting use cases that would help in your business. Or if you already, for example, have put together a first AI roadmap, if you have already identified a pipeline perhaps of use cases that are important for you, then we could also do some more deep dives. So for example, we could do a use case deep dive workshop. So an entire day or half a day, we would only discuss and talk about this specific use case. Sometimes these workshops are very good to use them prior to a POV, so that we have a very good understanding of what the POV and the use case is all about. So yes, of course, you can talk with us about your use cases. And with us, I always mean Pue and DataRobot. So it will be a joint effort, and we would look forward to you if you have some ideas. So please reach out to the Pue team, to DataRobot, if you already have some ideas of use cases. Perhaps if you already have models in production and you think, hey, perhaps DataRobot can provide added value, or perhaps could also challenge our existing models in production and see if DataRobot will be able to come up with even better predictions. So reach out to us, happy to discuss them, and look forward to any next steps with you.
Okay, we have, I think, the last question, and a fast question. from our audience. So this is the question. Is the optimization method used in your estimation models based on a gradient descent technique, or do you use another optimization method?
Yeah, there are a couple of optimization methods that we can use. So the typical ones, as I said, I'm not a data scientist, so I would be the wrong person to dive deep into this. But I can, or perhaps Pue, or in another session we could dive a little bit deeper. Yes, there are couples of different optimization methods that we can use. It's not only the loss optimization that I used in the demo. Yes, definitely possible.
Okay, Mr. Boris, thank you very much for solve this question from our audience. Thank you very much also for solve the most common challenges that companies face when implementing artificial intelligence. It was a pleasure to have you today here from Germany, and I hope to see you soon. We are sure that there are many companies that they are going to join this revolution in artificial intelligence.
Thanks so much, Adrian, and all the best from Munich, from Germany. Please stay healthy and fit, and hope to see all of you soon. Thanks.
Okay, all the best also for you, Mr. Boris. See you soon. Bueno, no tenemos tiempo para más. Ha sido un auténtico placer hablar con Boris Cordes desde Alemania. Nos atendía el Senior Director Partner and Alliance de DataRobot, que ha sido nuestro partner en el día de hoy. Quiero agradeceros a todos los que nos habéis seguido en esta sesión. Recordemos, más de 600 inscritos, a DataRobot, por supuesto, por confiar en Pue, a Javier y Arnaud de Pue, y muy especialmente, vuelvo a insistir, a Boris Cordes, que nos ha atendido desde Alemania. Ya sabéis que si estáis decididos a explorar nuevas soluciones en Big Data y Cloud, tenéis a todo el equipo de profesionales de Pue a vuestra disposición. Os recuerdo y os animo a la participación, que nos queda una sesión, es la última, y esta será en el primer miércoles del mes que viene, concretamente en el próximo miércoles 2 de diciembre, que tiene por título una auténtica Big Data Experience sobre lo último en soluciones y estrategias Big Data. Ya sabéis, tendremos experiencias de nuestros clientes en directo y os recomendamos que no os la perdáis, porque va a ser la última y también va a ser súper interesante, como todas las que hemos tenido hasta el día de hoy. Simplemente comentaros que tenéis toda la información a lo largo de esta semana. Podéis acceder a nuestros, a nuestra página web de LinkedIn y también a la página web de Pue, donde allí podéis registraros en esta sesión y obtener más información, profundizar un poco más acerca de los temas que se van a tratar en la próxima sesión. Y os quiero recordar que al término de esta sesión virtual, la cuarta, vais a recibir ya dentro de unos minutos una encuesta que tendréis que rellenar antes de 48 horas para entrar en el sorteo de unos cascos auriculares Marshall Mayor 2. Nos vemos la próxima semana, como siempre, en estas Pue Session, y recordad, make your data shine. Hasta la semana que viene.